ShortPoint. What is ShortPoint?
As an IT professional, you've got enough things to worry about. Monitoring endless security alerts shouldn't be one of them. Most security tools are noisy, expensive, and complex. Blumira takes a different approach to security operations, providing easy-to-use detection and response backed by a team of experts. Blumira's detections come pre-configured and pre-tuned, saving you time and headaches. Deploy in minutes for faster time to security, and avoid alert fatigue with prioritized findings. Protecting your organization is easy with Blumira's 3-step rapid response. Blumira automatically blocks known threats. We provide step-by-step playbooks for every finding. And you can resolve complex threats quickly by talking to our security experts at no extra cost. Fast detection and response means more protection against cyber attacks like ransomware. Our team shares their expertise with you to continuously improve your security coverage. We keep up with the latest threats, so you don't have to. Blumira makes security accessible and affordable for organizations of all sizes, whether you're operating in the cloud, on-prem, or a hybrid environment. Easy to manage, better security outcomes, faster response times. See for yourself. Get a free trial of Blumira. Blumira.com/trial.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm a bear. I'm exactly like you, assuming you're also a bear. We're the same. Now let's talk about your company's internet solution. It's pretty terrible. You're looking for the most up-to-date logo to send to that business for that thing, but you have no idea where it is. Better email marketing again, or you could just have an internet that actually works. Meet ShortPoint. Completely accessible, customizable, easy to modify, easy to navigate, and look there, a logo. I'm Kevin, and you're welcome. Start using ShortPoint today. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Scott Daniel Lish. I am CMO at ShortPoint. If I look familiar, it's because I was recently convinced to put on a bear costume to do a series of advertisements. Today, during the webinar, which is just starting in a couple seconds here, we're going to be going through the top 5 tools for Microsoft products. So we're going to try to go one by one and do it as fast as possible because as webinars go, they can get a little long-winded. With that being said, we do have, you do have the ability to ask questions throughout the webinar. That's on the right-hand panel here. Ask away. It's a private window, so other people won't see your questions, but we will answer them directly if we can during the webinar. If we don't get to them throughout the webinar, we may save some of them for the end of the Q&A, for the Q&A portion. But if we don't, we run long, we'll follow up directly with you over email. In addition to those questions, there are polls that will sporadically pop up. If you could answer these questions, it's not trigonometry, so it's pretty simple stuff, but it would help us out a lot. All right, and with that, we're going to go on to the first presenter. He is a graduate from the University of Michigan and a lifelong entrepreneur who also wears a bear costume on occasion. Me. Okay, so we're going to be talking about BitTitan. That is our first product here today. I don't know if you've used BitTitan, but it is a cloud migration platform that's just very easy. It can be used to migrate emails, personal archives, documents on OneDrive, SharePoint, Google Drive, and more. Public folders, Microsoft Teams, channels, conversations, permissions, files. Really, it is an excellent standalone platform for migration that has some very important key features and benefits. For starters, it's automated. It's fully remote. It's unlimited with concurrent migrations, which is super important for time savings. They have an excellent customer support team that's 24/7, and they offer like user collaboration features and PowerShell tools. So as far as a migration platform, it's great, which is why we voted as a top 5. In addition to that, it has significant ease of use. You don't have to have necessary experience in order to use BitTitan, and it's fully compliant and secure, minimizes downtime, scalable. If you're a small, medium business or you're an enterprise, you can use BitTitan. So that is number 1. All right, moving on to number 2, I'm going to introduce Joe Dormer. Joe is our Vice President of Sales at ShortPoint, and he is going to be talking about the number 2 product, which is ShortPoint Live Mode. Thank you.
Hi there, thanks for the introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. I'm going to talk a little bit about ShortPoint, and then we're going to give an overview of our new live mode editing experience. So first of all, what is ShortPoint? ShortPoint is a design add-in for SharePoint that makes it much easier for anybody to create an attractive and user-friendly intranet without needing to do any coding or development. So to start, we're going to take a look at the ShortPoint demo site. And if you'd like to take a look at this yourself, you can see here, it's just demos.shortpoint.com. This is a public site, so anybody can come here and take a look at the templates that are on our demo site. With our builder, you can create your own pages from scratch if you wanted to. We've got a bunch of design elements, we call them, things like tiles, tickers, slideshows, the different widgets you'll use to build pages like the ones that you see on our demo site. One of the big benefits of ShortPoint, though, as well, is that we can actually borrow designs from this demo site. So if we open up one of these designs, we'll go to this together design here, and you'll see a couple buttons at the top. So we can copy the whole page. The other thing I want to point out is that you can also copy parts. So that allows me to hover over different sections within this design and copy then just the piece of the page that I like. So maybe I like this section on this design, and then I want to use that along with another piece from one of our other designs. We can copy and paste and just mix and match these different designs on our own site, okay? Now, what we're gonna do for today is copy the whole page. So I'll go ahead and copy that, go over to my SharePoint site. I've got the ShortPoint app installed, so all I need to do is edit this page just like we normally would in SharePoint. And then from here, we're going to add in a section. These are the SharePoint section layouts that are available by default in SharePoint. ShortPoint's going to give us a lot more control. So I usually like to start with this full width section here on a communication site. Once we've added in that section, we then have this ShortPoint web part. So this actually is our page builder. We'll add that to the page, and then now to paste in the design I copied, I'm just going to right click and paste in that whole page. Now this is where we're going to start talking about the live mode. So we've got 2 editing modes. When we first paste it into the page, we're in what we call the grid mode. And this is the design experience that our clients have been using as long as we've been around and created thousands of attractive intranet sites. But what we did is we wanted to make it even easier for clients to be able to design those sites. And so now we have a button down here where we can switch to the live mode, which eliminates any guesswork and back and forth from that other grid mode design experience. Now I can just come here and make changes to the design and see what it's going to look like right away. So the first thing I want to do here, I want to show you how we can change this image in the background of this section. To do that, I'm just going to right click, and then you see our section settings here. All of these different elements are going to have some different styling options. So for this section, I can change some layouts, alignments, change the height of this. But again, in this case, I want to change my background image, which we can find here. We're going to remove the image that's there. I'm going to paste in another image that I've got ready and go ahead and apply those changes. Okay. The next thing we want to do here, I want to just update a little bit of the text that's in this page. For the text, I can actually just double click here, and then let's go ahead and select this text I want to replace. We'll paste in our other text. We'll say Intranet Design Made Easy. And then the last thing I'm going to update in this page, we've got some tiles here, but these right now are basically just placeholder tiles. So I want to go ahead and maybe update one of these so it links back to the demo site that we were just looking at. So again, I'm going to go ahead now and just right click, open up our tile settings. And again, this has some different styling options, so I could adjust the size of these tiles perhaps if I want to. Large is going to be a bit too big for us in this case, so we'll set those back. But again, different shapes, styles, going to change the hover effect, for example, on these tiles, things like that. If we want to change the actual tiles, we'll go over to the Items tab. I want to update this Departments tile, and we're going to instead say Demo Templates. And you could add a description. I'm going to go ahead and put in a link here. We could add icons or image backgrounds if we want there to be like a logo on the background of this tile, for example. Go ahead and change or apply these changes. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to show, we're not going to have too much time to get into all the different elements that are available, but if you wanted to add something else below the design or below these tiles that we have here, I'm going to go ahead and add in another section. Once we've added in this section, I can then click this Add Design Element button. And this is where you'll find all of the different design elements that we have available to add content into these pages. So slideshows, carousels, date lists, file lists if you want to show documents, bunch of other elements here that are going to give us much more flexibility, again, in how we show the information in our intranet. Hope that this has been helpful. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We'll see if we can get to them at the end of the webinar, or we'll follow up with you separately afterward. With that, I'm going to toss it over to Matt, who is the CTO and co-founder over at Blumira.
Thank you for the introduction. Excited to be here to share a little more about Blumira with everyone. Let's dive in. Next slide, please. Market conditions around the SMB and cybersecurity continue to be complex just because SMB and mid-market always gets the fun of being complex in market conditions for cybersecurity. There continue to be an increase in attacks and breaches broadly across 2021. The impact of ransomware obviously continues to impact SMB broadly just because of the potential damage that can occur to organizations when they get ransomed. Responses continue to take a long time, and that's not anyone's fault. It's just an increasingly difficult and complex world when it comes to defensive cybersecurity. That's been pulled down from 300, 400 days, but we're still in that 200 range days to get to response, and compliance continues to become more strict. We see more compliance coming out of PCI, more compliance coming out of the government and NIST with CMMC, and we also see compliance coming out of cyber insurance at this point. Next slide, please. Additionally, the IT teams inside of SMB continue to have the same issues that they've had for the last 10 to 20 years. There isn't a good way for them to do detection and response. There isn't a good SIM available for them to put that data into. That doesn't require a lot of complexity, a lot of extra work, and just extra time in the day. And what we see is that when people run into that situation, they're not able to put in the effort that's really required to do the detection engineering to get the information out of your data. Next slide, please. And of course, that enters Blumira. We made Blumira to really make things as easy as possible for SMB, mid-market, MSPs, and companies. And really the goal of that is to make sure that when you're leveraging your SIM, you get real value out of it. There's actionable information, and your data is really something that's important and useful to you. Next slide, please. And in general, we think it's a unique value for all of the IT teams out there, especially the small IT teams. We're going to help you unify your tools. We're going to help you get that fast time to security just because the deployments are really easy, as you'll see in the demo here shortly. And we do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. We don't want you to have to do detection engineering. We don't want you to have to figure out how to get data parsed and properly built out. All that should be important to you as an IT person or a security person in an SMB or mid-market company is that you have something that happened and there's something to solve and there's a playbook that follows how to solve that thing. And it assures that you as an organization can start to move up that maturity curve as well, which is always a good thing. Next slide, please. And of course, what does that result in? It results in things being easier for organizations, saving time, saving your resources for the things that you know need to happen day to day there. It improves your ability to detect those threats through continuous detection engineering here at Blumira, and it helps you meet your compliance for cyber insurance or just broadly within your organization. And in all of those situations, that allows you and your organization to really focus on what matters. Focus on the day-to-day, focus on how do you grow your company, not how you worry about detection engineering and a nebulous new threat. We can take care of that for you. Next slide, please. And across Blumira, we focus heavily on Microsoft because we know that a lot of SMBs are within the M365 and Microsoft types of environments. We do that through our Microsoft 365 free edition, which has 100% free detection and response for Microsoft 365. And we also do it with our new Blumira agent, which gives you that broad EDR-like visibility across all of your Windows endpoints with host isolation in any way that you could need it. Additionally, Blumira is heavily focused from a data perspective around Microsoft. We are very good at detecting threats. We are very good at providing you that information associated with Microsoft, Microsoft Windows, Microsoft 365, and all of those together allow you to get that really powerful kind of view out of your SIM, which is really hard to get otherwise. And now let's take a quick product tour. Blumira is built to make everything as easy as possible for the users of Blumira. And we do that in a few different ways, starting with how you get data into Blumira itself. We do that through our new Cloud Connector product. And what that allows you to do, and the same on free all the way up to our most advanced edition, is just come into our product, go to the Cloud Connector section, go to the Microsoft 365 Cloud Connector, follow our straightforward setup guide, and provide us with your information for your actual tenant. When you do that, the data will immediately start flowing into Blumira itself. And as data is flowing into Blumira, we will start turning on detection rules for your environment. So essentially, as additional data flows in, be it from Azure AD, SharePoint, anywhere inside of Microsoft 365, Blumira will enable those detections for you. So you don't need to do the detection engineering. You don't need to figure out how to turn those on. We will automatically deploy them for you in the way that makes the most sense for your organization. And of course, kind of the base of Blumira is getting alerts associated with security out of your environment. And one of the ones that we really like to touch on for Microsoft 365 are excessive numbers of MFA enrollment skips, or just generally MFA and authentication issues within it. These often indicate that there could be potential risk for the users associated with these kind of issues because you know this user is not using MFA most likely in this situation. And what Blumira does is provide you with this structured case management for each and every one of these detections. So I just took ownership in here itself, as well as a full playbook for each and every detection as well. And here, what we want to do is determine, does this user have a reason not to use MFA? If they do, then there should be a reason for you to know, okay, well, then we want to walk through this and we want to say, hey, this user is exempted from MFA enrollment. Internally, we know, hey, they aren't able to use MFA for whatever reason, so we want to make sure they're exempted. And now you have this finding recorded forever. You can take it to your auditor, you can take it to any sort of compliance structure and say, this is why this user doesn't have it. We know and we acknowledge that, and we are auditing it broadly. And of course, just as importantly, getting the detailed information for each and every one of these detections, knowing that this login failed, but they were skipping MFA is important for you. Also important, the ability to build in filters for these. We know we risk accepted that. Should we now no longer hear about this? If so, then it's just as simple as saying, all right, well, we're going to allow list this user, and we can see it up here. This user includes, We're going to allow this user and say, anytime the user contains defukes, we're just going to say, we don't want to hear about that. And that's okay, because that allows you and your organization to get deeper visibility in the things that matter. You know that this was already risk accepted. Now you're going to filter this out and move forward. And of course, the other big part of Blumira, and of course, your use of Microsoft 365, is getting visibility into who's doing what. I like to look at this report regularly as well. And this is a group report that tells me how many people are accessing or previewing files inside of SharePoint. And we can look at this current quarter. We have some use here. But if we look back in the previous quarter, so we're looking back from October into December, we can see that there was a lot more being accessed by a different user of ours. And it's also good, I like to note that when you see app at SharePoint, those are those groups that you build out in SharePoint that are full of users. So we know that this H. Leonard likely is part of a group, and that allows us to dig further into how are groups being used inside of SharePoint as well. And just broadly, it's really important for you to be able to get that level of visibility into how files are being accessed, where are they being accessed from. We know they're only being accessed from the United States, for example. Do I need to build out conditional access policies in this situation? Probably not, because we know where people are accessing it from. Additionally, being able to then jump deeper into how reporting works for you and your environment. And if you're using Microsoft 365, Blumira has a large number of built-out 365 detections, or I should say reports, so you can get more than just what's coming out of my environment from a security perspective. You can also get full login reports, full SharePoint reports, reporting out of each and every portion of 365. So you can say, all right, I can see that I have some logins over the last week. Well, how else can I look at this data? Let's look for who's logged in the most during that time period. And we can quickly just apply that count and look up, yep, we have this user coming from this IP logging into the main Azure application the most times over the last week. And that might indicate a problem. It may not, or it may just be a good pivot point to say, you know what, let's see if anyone logged in from outside the US as well. And what we can see is that over the last 7 days, no one has. And really what that allows you and your organization to do is leverage Blumira in a way that not only do you get the security capabilities coming out of findings, not only do you get the ease of use to send data up from Microsoft environments or inside your own Microsoft environment using sensors, as well as the automatic deployment of detection rules, but you also get the benefit of easy reporting, lots of different ability to add in your existing Microsoft 365 data types, and then build out additional detections and visibility into them. And that's really the gist of Blumira. It's built to be as easy as possible for you. And so let's move on to something that's close to all of us who work in security, patch management. PDQ, specifically their PDQ deploy solution, allows administrators to automate their patch management, updating third-party software, deploy custom scripts, and really make impactful configuration change in minutes leveraging it. We see people leveraging anything ranging from PDQ deploy to PS exec to just manually touching machines. And we are huge fans of PDQ deploy over here, not only because it reduces the amount of tools that you leverage, like PS exec, that can really get confused with what attackers are doing, but it's also really easy to use. Next slide, please. How it works. And that's really kind of the big question. It's intended to be as easy as possible for you and your administrators at the organization. All you really have to do is select the software that you want to deploy, over 250 different types of software deployable through it. Pick the target machines that you already have added into PDQ deploy, and then you just have to wait. It allows you to really make these complex decisions and complex deployments a lot easier for your organization. Next slide, please. And of course, you got to have great patch management. One of the best parts of PDQ deploy is that not only do you have a large number of packages to pick from to easily do scheduled deployments, but you can also handle any sort of your scripts, any file copying, any handling of PowerShell, or really anything associated to concerns with different machines. Maybe you need to make sure certain machines have different bandwidth leverage than other ones. And really, in the grand scheme of it all, what it allows you and your organizations to do is to be really successful about moving to a more mature and a more structured way to do patch management and software deployment, which is also and always very important. Next slide, please. And if you've never used something like PDQ deploy before, I think you will often wonder kind of how I was not doing this before. Classically, a lot of people, and myself included, are used to doing the PS exec, jamming over remote PowerShell or invoke command. And when you move to something like PDQ deploy, not only will you make your life easier by reducing complexity and having some expectations to how things are going to work, but you'll also be able to improve your efficiency and get output. So you're not just running commands hoping for the best. You'll be able to prove what's happening. We're huge fans of PDQ deploy, and Windows environments, you won't find anything easier for your teams. And that wraps up PDQ. Now back to ShortPoint team for our next solution.
Okay, I wanted to jump in here real quick. We are running a little bit behind. So if you have questions, continue to ask them, and we will do our best to continue to answer them. If we don't get to it, once again, we will reach out after the webinar. Moving on to number 5 is accessibility options for SharePoint. As we all know, employee inclusion is super important thing for all companies, specifically ones that are required to meet WCAG 2.1 and ADA compliance. ShortPoint partnered with a company called UserWay to provide an industry-leading option that's viable for companies of all sizes to implement in their intranet. To talk more about this and to walk you through the AI functionality is our Customer Experience Manager, Oksana. Take it away.
Hey guys, so today I'll be demonstrating to you the AI-powered ShortPoint accessibility widget, which helps you to make your intranet sites WCAG and ADA compliant and make sure they're inclusive and accessible to all your site visitors. So I'm in my SharePoint intranet page now. Let me open ShortPoint and show you how we can manage accessibility. I click the accessibility widget from here. And if I'm doing this for the first time, I'm clicking here to enable accessibility. And what this will give me is it will give me this accessibility icon here, which I can click. And this icon opens up the accessibility widget, which looks like this. So I'm the manager of this widget right now, and I have this manage button. Other users don't. If I click manage, this is where all the magic happens. This is the AI-powered accessibility tool, which allows you to find issues with accessibility and fix them automatically. So as long as it was working in my environment for 24 hours, it found 2,239 issues, and it fixed it automatically. So if you turn this on for the first time, you want it to run for 24 hours, and during that time, all of your sites are analyzed. This doesn't influence the performance of your pages, but 24 hours is enough for this widget to find every issue with this accessibility on your intranet, not only on ShortPoint design pages, but on all pages. And you can click view remediations and see that some remediations need your review and some don't. So for example, it fixed 62 issues with screen reader, which would become a trouble to read by the screen reader for people that have visual impairments, and they are now fixed. And if I click remediations for review, I'll have some other things like image else added or form labels fixed. Or for example, here in the color contrast, I see that some of the text in my intranet is not the most contrast looking, so it's not the most clear. And it suggests me to make changes to make it brighter and more readable, and I can accept them or I can decline them. So I can click one by one, and it gives you granular control over all of these things. Now, what I can also do here is I can get my report. And when I click here, it's creating a PDF document for me, which summarizes everything that was done. And you can use this on one of your intranet pages or present it to your partners or your customers and show that your website is now WCAG compliant and how all of these issues were fixed. All of the violations, everything was cleared and made sure that everything is accessible to the site visitors. Now, let me close this for now. By the way, you can, of course, change the placing of this icon. You can change the color, the style, the size, so everything is customizable. And I'd like to go back to my intranet page here and show you that this is from the point of view of a site visitor. So every site visitor has this icon now, and they can make, so they will not see the manage button, but they will be able to make different adjustments based on their needs to the website. So let's show some of them. They can make a bigger cursor. They can have a reading mask so that it highlights the text better. Some underlinings, they can make bigger text, for example, like this. They can make text more space so you are able to better read it. Different things are available here, including screen reader, which is a much better version of a screen reader, and it actually works to explain what is on this page, not just like the standard version, the default one. So these are the improvements that each user can make to improve their experience. And what is important, these AI remediations and fixes will be active further in the future. You don't have to turn on the accessibility widget every time you need to, you created a new page or you added new content to one of the pages. It will be working automatically all the time. So for every new page you add, it's going to be analyzing it and fixing the accessibility issues if it finds it there. I hope that was a clear presentation. And guys, if you have any questions, I'll be really happy to ask them. Please put them in the chat. And thank you very much. I'm stopping to share my screen. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry if we didn't get a chance to answer your questions directly, I know, but we did go over in time quite a bit past that 30 minutes. So we will reach out to you over email if we didn't already. And if you want to answer any of the polls that you haven't answered so far, please do so. Regardless, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you around the interwebs.